but I had a few minutes here and I just wanted to go live for a quick second. As you know, like I do my weekly videos, right, with guests and everything. And we've got another good one coming up this week. We had a dope one last week. We had Heather Johnson, Rabbi Heather Johnson on, who talked to us about returning to the center and really understanding what Judaism was, the ways in which it was colonized by Christianity, and the things that we have to learn from the actual and ancient practice of Judaism. This week, coming up on Monday, August 2nd, we're speaking with my beautiful friend Elle Dowd, who has been with us on the podcast before, to talk about purity culture, to talk about being invisibly queer. And now we are going to be talking about her new book, Baptized in Tear Gas, subtitled From White Moderate to Abolitionist. And I am so excited to talk to Elle about this book. It's been a great read so far. And I think it's really a valuable thing because she shares her journey from where she was as a white person who didn't understand to someone who saw the atrocities that happened to Mike Brown in Ferguson, the beginning of the Black Lives Matter uprising, and really has been changed by her interactions and such in the social justice world. And I'm really excited to talk to her about it. So take a sip of my coffee and get going here, but we have awesome things coming up. But as you guys know, I also like to join in with some just thoughts that are kicking around in my brain. I have a lot of them. So like if I shared more than 1/10 of them, the world would be like, that's a lot. So I try to, pare it down to the best ones. So there's been a lot of talk about the Olympics, of course, and there's been a lot of talk about Simone Biles, in particular, everything that's been going on with her in terms of pulling out of the team competition, what that meant, the implications, all of that. And I wanted to offer my two thoughts on the matter. Obviously, Simone Biles should in no way be impacted by my opinions and my thoughts, but it really just got me thinking. And as someone who was trained to be a pastor, when I get thinking, analogies happen, and then I make, a whole picture in my brain, and I figured why not share it today. So I wanted to talk about the idea of mettle over metal. And I know that seems like, what it seems like is a cheesy cliche sermon is about to come at you, right? Like, ooh, a play on words, right? But there is actually the idea of metal as a concept versus metals as a noun. And I think that is something that's really interesting. And so what I want to do is parse that out a little bit, just a couple minutes, not to dive into the deep end, but just something to think about, right? So mettle, mettle, is a person's ability to cope well with difficulties or face a demanding situation in a spirited and resilient way. According to Oxford Languages, according to dictionary.com, it's courage or bravery. And I don't remember where I first came across the word, but when I was in, high school, middle school, elementary school, I just love words. Like they're exciting to me and I like learning them and I like using them and I have fun with it. And I remember the idea of like the mettle of a man. And I'm not saying this to be gendered, but like the absolute base of someone's character and how it shapes them and what it does and how it forms them, right? And I really got to thinking about this idea of mettle versus metals when we're talking about Simone Biles. Obviously, most of the people in the world know at this point and have an opinion one way or the other about her pulling herself out of the Team USA gymnastics competition at the beginning of this week. And I think it just is an interesting commentary on so many things. First of all, on the world's belief that we can commodify Black bodies, because Simone Biles owes nobody anything in terms of her athletic participation. She was cool, her team was cool with her, they had her back, and I think she made the right decision, so no one else gets to commodify her. She's a person, not a product, right? First brief thought. Second brief thought, mental health is important, and you cannot have the peak of physical health without having mental health. And if you watch the cameras when she was at the competition, she definitely said, I don't trust myself right now. You could see the unsureness in her walk. And I can't imagine what it would be like to have that many eyes on you. And so to know yourself well enough to say, I can't trust myself and I can't do that to my team, I think that takes a certain amount of wisdom, vulnerability, and intuitive self-knowledge. And I think that's a great thing. And what that leads me to is the idea of mettle. when you train for something, right, and you spend years and years and years working towards this goal, there's a couple things that you're getting from that training. You're getting the strength to achieve your goal or the knowledge to achieve your goal or whatever, but you have this whole process along the way. And the process is not something that you just idly pass through, right? To be an Olympian, I played college sports up to Division II. I also played handball for Team USA handball for a while, and trained at a really high level to the point where I was being recruited to play handball. Denmark was the like market that I was looking to go play because team handball is a bigger sport there. And in that training, I have the ability to be incredibly determined, like determined past the point of where it's healthy, right? And I think that through the process of that training, that built my mettle. It built my ability to be able to face things, to work hard, and to know that I can succeed and break big goals down into smaller incremental goals, and I can survive and I can do it. The irony for me is that the mettle that I built over that time didn't lead where I thought it was going to lead, but it brought me here to this moment. And I think that that perhaps is the most valuable thing that we need to think about and hold on to, especially when we take this analogy of, Simone Biles and her decision to step back from the team competition. If we look at that introspectively, instead of commodifying her experience as if we have any say over it, if we take that introspectively and let it sink into our brain, and we think about what that means for us and how it impacts the world, I think it brings up a lot. Because mettle, your intrinsic, not intrinsic, but your work and your cultivation and your dedication and your quest for knowledge and fitness and strength and all of these things that we work towards, I believe that that is worth more than any outward source could give us, right? At this point in my life, I like to joke that everything I've done in my life, I've earned in my life, it's because I work hard. It's not because I was incredibly naturally talented. Like, if you want to talk about sports, like, I have asthma and I run like a duck. It wasn't a good selling point for me as a professional athlete. But the thing that I always bring to the table is that if to steal Will Smith's analogy, if there are two people in a gym, right? One is myself, I get on the treadmill. The next person gets on the treadmill next to me. I can guarantee one of two things is going to happen. They're going to get off first, or I'm going to die on the treadmill, right? And because I did a lot of things I wasn't good at, by the time I found something that I was naturally good at in the world of hair and in the world of speaking and teaching and communicating, right? Because I had done so many things that I was naturally not good at, I developed a sense of mettle that I will never take for granted. And I will also never apologize for, because I worked for every single gain, every single accomplishment, every single thing I've worked for. And I've always said that I feel more comfortable depending on my own work ethic than anybody else's. I'm not afraid to live and die by my own hand, And that's something that I truly value. And I think what we see in the story, in the analogy, if you will, of Simone Biles, is she has dedicated her entire life. Man, she's actually not old enough to rent a car, if I remember correctly, without having to pay a higher bill. She's not old enough to rent a car, and she's won medals upon medals upon medals. She has held together a program that was rocked by sexual abuse scandal. She's stood up and been that advocate for her teammates, and in the face of Team USA, she's dealt with that. She has opened a gym for, girls to come and chase their dreams, especially girls who might, not have a chance otherwise. Like, she's done these amazing things, and she can't even rent a car. And forgive me if I find that more of a compelling thing to focus on than, Brad from junior high who can't run the mile still talking about how she should have stayed and fought it out for her team. I think there was an amount of mettle in her character that was shown, where she knew herself well enough to know her limits, well enough to know her role in the team, well enough to make the right decision. And she made the decision that ultimately kept them in the race and kept them in the running and kept them together as a team. And she stood there and she still led the team despite stepping off of the mat. And I think that that's powerful, and I think that that's valuable, and I think that as they say, that dog will hunt, right, in terms of analogy. But I guess I would just encourage everybody out there. I'm very introspective about this myself today, so I would encourage everybody else to take a second to think about it. But what are you made of? What is the metal of your character? What have you learned from and grown from? What has strengthened you? Or what can you take from this experience and use it as a metaphor that can impact and change your life? Is there a way in which you need to step back and say, I don't trust myself right now? Step off the floor, get back into the training room, get back into the rehab room, and see what you need to straighten out. Because I firmly believe that people's metal is worth way more than metals ever could be. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you get a chance to check out Conversations Official on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts. If you feel like you want to get engaged more, check out conversationsofficial.com. You can see the different sources we have. Also, there's a Patreon that you can drop if you feel really inspired by the things I have to say, or the work that we're doing as like a spiritually minded community. You can sign up to be a part of the Patreon, which is just where you just donate X amount of dollars a month to keep conversations going. There's different options, different tiers, all that sort of stuff, but you can find that information all on conversationsofficial.com. The whole goal is to get out there, to change the world, and to make a difference. And every dollar that you guys send in helps. It makes the website stay up. It makes Streamlabs keep getting paid for. It keeps my camera functioning and keeps the lights on, quite literally. Emily, you are so correct. Trusting yourself is so incredibly vital. And oftentimes, especially if you are female, assigned female at birth, or, in any way viewed by and treated by the world as female, you're taught to not trust yourself. You are taught to trust the voices of others and to put them first. And I think that's yet another avenue of metaphor that Simone laid out for us, which was trust yourself. Do the work to know yourself, because you can't just go trusting all willy-nilly if your kind of compass is off, right? But do the work to be a version of yourself that you can trust, and then trust that fiercely and let it guide you, because that internal orientation will guide you very far in life, as long as you do the work to make sure that it's calibrated, right? It's so incredibly vital. So thank you, Emily, for watching. Thank you, whoever else saw this video. I can't see the statistics from this program that I'm using, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you tuning in. Please take the chance to share this video, and I would love to hear your comments on it. Honestly, just thoughts and comments, because as the name of Conversation suggests, it's only so good if I sit and talk, right? Conversations must proceed in some part spontaneously between two or more parties in order to be a conversation. So drop your conversations in the comment box, like and subscribe this page, check out the website, follow the podcast, and let's continue to dialogue. Let's continue to converse and to think spiritually minded thoughts, and to make the world a better place, because we go there in terms of our thoughts, and then we let that develop in terms of our actions. Thank you so much, friends.